a man waiting by the roadside suddenly walked into a trap. In this thick forest hides an exceptionally artful killer. He is skilled at setting up deadly traps in the woods to harm the souls of people traveling. Anyone who inadvertently enters his domain faces a gruesome death. In just a few months, countless travelers have lost their lives here, but there are always thrill-seekers in the world. One day, a group of fearless young people, intrigued by the killer's tale, rode a bus to the forest to challenge him to a contest. Unexpectedly, just as the group got off the bus, a strange old man suddenly appeared before them, causing a chaotic panic as everyone mistook him for the ruthless killer. However, the old man was only there to warn them to leave immediately because a deadly serial killer hides in this forest. Yet they arrogantly dismissed his warning. Their purpose for coming here was to face the killer. They wouldn't leave so easily. Ignoring the old man's warnings, they headed deeper into the forest and arrived at a convenience store to buy beer and barbecue supplies. Upon entering, they discovered the store was extremely run down. Dust covered the food on the tables and rusty pickaxes hung from the ceiling beams, making the place incredibly creepy. After picking up their items, they called for the shopkeeper to check out, but despite shouting for a long time, no one appeared. Just as the group was losing patience and about to leave, an unknown man came out from the shadows and approached them with a vacant expression, muttering to himself strangely. Then he focused on a girl in the group, looking deranged. While everyone was confused, the man was suddenly dragged into the darkness by a bizarre force. Before they could react, another man appeared before the group, claiming to be the shopkeeper. He explained that the strange man was his brother. While talking, the shopkeeper tried to take advantage of the girl, making everyone feel uneasy about him. They abandoned their purchases and turned to leave the store. Little did they know, an endless slaughter awaited them. Later, the group continued driving their bus deeper into the jungle. On the way, they encountered a traveler wanting a ride. Having just experienced strange events, the group was already terrified and sped off, leaving the man behind to fend for himself. The man inadvertently stepped into the killer's carefully laid trap. Suddenly, an iron rod flew out from the woods, killing him instantly. Meanwhile, the group finally arrived at their destination, set up their tents, and began exploring freely, unaware that they were at the site of the deadly killer's frequent crimes. Soon after, a reckless girl went jogging alone in the woods while listening to music, unaware to the fact that the killer had already set his sights on her. As she reached a large tree, the killer, dressed in a ghillie suit, tripped her up. He immediately pinned the woman down, covering her mouth tightly. In desperation, the woman bit his hand hard, causing the killer to toss her aside in pain and reveal his true face. When the woman saw his face, she realized he was actually the convenience store owner. She kicked him away and sprinted back to the camp to warn her friends. However, on her way back, she tripped over a tree stump and accidentally triggered one of the killer's traps. An iron pickaxe fired straight at her, ending her life in an instant. The deadly killer quickly turned the chains, dragging the woman's body into the depths of the forest. He then turned her into a distorted human tree stump. But as he admired his gruesome creation, a stray dog came by and carried off the woman's hand. He chased after the dog, accidentally encountering two players in a live-action survival game. Realizing the killer's brutality, the players opened fire on him. But to their shock, the man seemed unaffected by such injuries. Then, the cunning killer lured the two players into a trap. The confused players failed to realize what was happening before falling prey to the killer's deadly plan. Meanwhile, a woman comes looking for her lost teddy. Unexpectedly, her dog was chewing on a palm. Just as she was about to pick up her teddy, the killer quietly came to her and trampled the dog without saying a word. She tried running away, but the man still chased after her and pushed her to the ground. He used a hemp rope to strangle the woman's neck and brought her back to the slaughter base. On the other side, Peter, who was addicted to alcohol, drove to the store alone and knocked on the door to call, but did not get a response. When he arrived at the warehouse at the back of the shop, what he saw were not merchandise. He picked it up and looked at it carefully. The next second, he was directly frightened to the ground. Turns out this bag is full of mummified corpses that have been dead for long. Only then did he realize that the boss of this place was the main killer. It was hard to imagine how many innocent people had died at his hands. Confused, he gathered enough evidence from the scene and drove quickly back to the camp. However, on the way back, he happened to meet the killer who was disposing off a body. Just as the vehicle passed, the killer immediately slammed the hanging body into the car. Peter hurriedly stopped to observe, but saw nothing, only found a dead dog on the ground, so he continued to drive back to the camp. When he presented the evidence of the killer's murder to his colleagues, everyone realized that the owner of the shop was the deadly killer. Not long after, their bus tires were blown out by the deadly killer. It was obvious that the killer was going to have a real fight with a few of them, but by this time, the few were already scared out of their courage. However, their companion Mia had not returned yet, so several people looked around with flashlights. When Mia was found, she had already been made into a human statue by the killer. At this moment, his companion John was attacked by the butcher. Seeing this situation, the companions on the side not only did not step forward to help but instead were scared and scattered. Helpless John could only break free from the killer and drag his seriously injured body into the jungle. Unexpectedly, the killer had already built a sophisticated Iron Island chariot and precisely aimed at John. Soon, under the attacks of the killer, John finally received a deadly lunch. The blonde girl here was not spared. The man tied her neck tightly with a hemp rope and cruelly hung her to death from a tree. Then he aimed the chariot at Peter, but he managed to escape the killer's attack with his coquettish position. So he survived by narrow luck, and the long-haired girl on the other side just escaped onto the highway. She was caught by the killer who followed her. He did not intend to kill her, but enthusiastically invited her into the car. The long-haired girl who saw the killer's tricks knew that she had no room to resist, so she could only sit hopelessly. Peter, who had been hiding behind, took the opportunity to climb into the car. The killer brought the long-haired girl back to his nest, and there were two mummies sitting on the table. The killer introduced the two mummies to the woman as his parents. It seemed that the butcher was planning to turn the long-haired girl into his own wife. A strange creature from behind slowly walked out. Wearing a ghillie suit, he tried to pretend to be the twin brother of the butcher. Unexpectedly, the killer used Huang Hao's trick at a glance, and was soon tied to a big tree. The deadly killer burned the man alive to ashes. Seeing the tragic death of her companion, the woman secretly vowed to take revenge. She pretended to obey all his requests and tried her best to seduce him. She took advantage of the situation to pick up the kitchen knife opposite her. The killer caught the woman who failed to sneak attack with a white blade with his bare hands while she turned around to run away. Unexpectedly, he suddenly appeared from the side, and the woman immediately dodged. The long-haired girl took advantage of the situation and kicked him down. The butcher was pierced through his shoulder by an iron pick. Seeing this situation, the woman took the opportunity to slip back to the original place, turned out the kitchen knife just now, and prepared to fight him to death. Soon, the killer out of trouble caught up, and the woman quietly hid behind Peter's body. Just as the killer approached Peter's body, he collapsed, and the woman finally breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, a strange noise came from behind her. She hurriedly turned around to check, but did not find anything unusual. But when she turned around again, she found that the killer had disappeared. She quickly picked up the iron pick on the ground to defend herself. The last big hand of the film grabs the woman, and honestly, the ending was completely brutal. For more interesting recaps like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe.